Hey everyone, this is Frugal Panda here. Just real quick, we're going to do a quick review of this. But before we get started, you see this is a good looking bike, but let's let everyone hear the sound the motor makes on this e-bike before we get into the actual first impressions of the first ride of this bike. So, initial impressions of this e-bike when riding it. This is the Zenroll C1 Pro. It rides great. I mean, to be honest with you, it's a little bit quieter than my original electric XP 1.0. It doesn't rattle like the electric XP 1.0 did. The brakes are not rubbing as much as the electric XP 1.0 did that I had. One of the reasons it doesn't rattle as much is it also does not have those metal fenders on it and the rear rack. But this thing, I'm guarantee you, if I had the electric XP 1.0 still, I could yank everything off the 1.0 and also the battery, which I believe was a 10.42 off of there, and put them on this e-bike if I wanted it all. So not having all that on there shaved off a little bit of weight. So I'd say this bike's probably in the high 50s because when I went to pick it up to put it in the house, I was prepared for all this weight and I lifted it a little too high just preparing for it. And I realized, oh, this bike's not as heavy as my other e-bikes when I was taking it up the steps. Now, with that being said, this bike is faster than my electric XP 1.0. It is faster than my electric X Premium, that's a given. That thing will never do 28 miles an hour, maybe on a hill. And it is faster than my Rad Power Rad Mini version 4 with a more powerful motor, because this is supposed to be 500 watts. I could not find what the peak power is on the motor itself outside of the 500 watt brushless hub motor that it has on it. But I can tell you this for a fact. It will do, and this was verified with GPS, it will do 25 to 27 miles an hour in throttle mode only on a flat. The motor just keeps going. The motor just keeps going. I got it up between 28 and about 31 miles on actually pedal assist. Now, taking into account this was done on a actual day where it was 34 degrees out, and riding it was freezing cold. It was probably like 15 degrees riding it. So I didn't get a full test of it. What the test I did get, I was really impressed, especially this was a $700 bike that outperformed my old electric XP 1.0. Utilizes the same exact battery, but these batteries can be ordered for a lot cheaper than even through electric XP. But if the 1.0's battery will fit in this, guess what? You can actually go on Electric XP's website and get the larger battery, and it will fit in here too, because according to their website, that fits into 1.0 too. And if it'll fit in there, more than likely it'll fit in here. I might just have to test that out. Riding, it did great. It was easy to ride. It rode just like my electric XP 1.0. So I would guess the peak power on this e-bike is around, if it's a 500 watt, I would say 720 to 750 is the peak power it can make at capacity. But there's a difference between this bike and the Rad Mini, as well as electric XP, as well as electric X Premium, and even the Shears I had and the Rad Runner. It does not stop. The motor will keep going and going. It doesn't cut off like all the others do at about 20 miles an hour. The the electric X Premium, half the time can't even make 20 miles an hour just because, they're afraid of the chain breaking and all that stuff. It's a type of mid-drive motor, so you have to be careful because they're really hard on the chains. So, but the power will keep going. It don't shut off like that. So, but it was just too cool to test it out to see where its threshold was. So I rode it around, and it was a great bike to ride. I had a lot of fun on it. It rode just like I remember my electric XP 1.0 riding, which was a fun bike, but it didn't have all the rattles. Now I will be putting fenders on it, but I will be making homemade cheap fenders. Like I said, this is a $700 bike. I'm going to keep it under budget. I don't want to put another $500 into this bike outside of maybe $150, $200 for a second battery, because I want to keep this as like my little budget economy bike that's fun to ride, but it's a fat tire and it's not super heavy. So To tell you the truth, I was really pleasantly surprised with this e-bike. I really like the build quality of it. As far as being $700, I think it's a good value, to be honest with you. I don't have anything negative really to say about it. Does it have a rear light? No, it doesn't. But you know what? You go to Walmart, you order one from AliExpress for a couple bucks, and you can throw one on if you don't have one yourself. It's not a big deal. It has a headlight. It's simple to use. You turn it, it goes. It starts slowing down on hills like hub motors do, no different than my electric XP did. It might have been a little bit easier to get up hills though, because it probably shaved off about, maybe close to 10 pounds, 7 to 10 pounds in regards to not having the fenders and that rear heavy rack that they put on the original, and probably some other little things. Do not put the reflectors on it that come with it. Just get the tape, because that's another place for these things to rattle you to death and get on your nerves. What I liked was I didn't have to modify the brakes too much. I had to loosen them a little bit. When I first got them, wiped them down with alcohol, they were good to go. Versus my XP, which was right out of the box, the brakes were all crappy and everything like that, squeaking and grinding and just irritating. But that's neither here nor there. That was their 1.0. Even though I got one of the last versions of it, it wasn't like their very first ones they came out with. But as far as range goes, they say 40 to 50 miles. That's going to probably be on pass 1. That's what I would guess. I would say the actual range on this is probably on pass 3. If your pedal assist is probably 25 max is what I would say. Just because I know that battery that's in it. I know how the electric XP was on that. That's why I'd say I'd get a second battery or test it out and see if that electric XP's larger battery would fit in here. If it did, that would be awesome. And also, the range would be affected by the cold out here. As you know, with electric bikes and cars, range is really affected by cold, and there's no heating element to keep the battery warm. So when I'm flying around here, it's wearing this battery out too. But when I got home, it went down to 3 bars, but by the time I got home, it was back to looking like it was fully charged. But a day like today is not a good day. So today was not a good day to actually do a real thorough test of the battery, but it did fine, especially on a cold day like this. The throttle, I was really impressed with the throttle. Like I said, the thing did 25 to 27 miles an hour on throttle alone on flat surfaces and slight inclines. I mean, shoot, that's pretty fast. The problem with that is you got to make sure you don't fall in love with it and run your battery out. But the pedal assist worked fine. I want to say, and I'm going to be honest with everybody, compared to my electric XP 1.0, I'd say the build quality was better, but it may not be better. It may just be that electric, the company, added all those accessories on it that made it heavier, clunkier, and just a rattle magnet. You had to tighten all the time. But I like this bike. It also gave me vibes of the old electric XP I had, but it just wasn't as rough around the edges, I don't think. For $700, I can't complain. I'm going to recommend this bike for anyone who's interested in getting into the e-bike scene, or just want a cheap bike to have as a backup to their expensive one, or just are frugal and they don't want to spend a bunch of money. Everything's real basic on this bike. You got a hub motor, you got a battery, and you got a controller and a display. All that's easy to fix. Anyway, there'll be follow-up videos to this. Once again, everyone, this is Frugal Panda. Thanks for watching, and links will be in the description for this e-bike, the Zenroll C1 Pro.